I love hearing about people's worst backpacking experiences, their worst backpacking trips. It's always so much fun watching people's videos where they're talking about all these troubles that have somehow accumulated into one trip to make it just a miserable time. And today it's story time here. My worst backpacking trip ever. I actually filmed it. I have it here. We're going to reference that video, and it's going to be a lot of fun. It's definitely a video that if you've seen before, needs more explanation, kind of give you guys a background of what I was going through, what all went wrong, what I should have did, what I shouldn't have done, and yeah, it's going to be a little fun talk today. So let's get right into it here. All right, Shawnee State Forest, Ohio. This was late August. It was probably 2 years ago now, I think. This was a really rough trail for me. I was actually planning on doing 3 days. This was going to be a 2-nighter. I was going to do 10 miles the first day, 20 the second, and finish out the 40-mile loop with the 10-mile day the last day. Now, this day was ridiculously hot. I believe, yeah, you can see there, 93-degree Fahrenheit. And with a heat advisory. So they were telling people, don't go outside today unless you have to. And I thought, man, screw it. I got this planned. I'm going to go bust out these miles. I don't care. I'm going for it. This was the second time I did Shawnee. I really wanted to get redemption and do the full loop because I cut out on my first trip as well. So right off the bat here in this video, I'm already complaining about how many spiders were across the trail. I think within the first mile or two, there were just, tons. It was crazy. By the end of this trip, I was completely immune to the feeling of being grossed out by spider webs. I was just getting covered in them. I wasn't even thinking about the spiders at all. It is what it is. Now, this is a good point I'll stop here and talk about. Right before I stopped to film this little section here, I noticed some dirt on my ankles, and I thought it kind of seemed weird because it was pretty dry out, so it didn't seem like any mud would be flinging up or anything on my ankles. And well, I just looked down and it just little weird specks of dirt, and I really didn't think anything of it. But that is a very important part of the story, so we're going to come back to that in a little bit. Okay, right here I'm talking about how many gnats are flying around my head. Super buggy. This trail is right by the Ohio River, and I do not suggest going here in late August or, the height of bug season. It is absolutely miserable and very overgrown. In my experience, this is not a summer trail at all. Definitely want to save this one for the winter/fall hikes. You can see right here, okay, I'm already stripped all the way down. I am dying for water. Okay, that's all the footage I got till I got to camp here, so I'm going to pause for a second. But nutrition on this trail is what really killed me. I was running at the time, but I hadn't thought yet about proper nutrition. I really wasn't into that yet, so I was really inexperienced. Now, on this trip, I was doing the 40-mile loop counterclockwise, backwards rather, going past campsite 7 and 6 first. Now, I was trying to make it to campsite 5 on the first day, which would have been a 12.5-mile day. Now, my big flaw in this is I got there really late in the afternoon, I think 3 or 4 o'clock, and I hiked for probably 6 or so hours, and I was really trying to get to camp early that I didn't stop at all to eat anything. I did 12.5 miles. I'm not even sure if I ate before I went on the trail, but I did 12.5 miles with no nutrition at all, very limited water. I didn't understand the importance of nutrition at that point. Also, in the video, I talk about how my legs were cramping. At about mile 10 or 11, my thighs really started cramping a lot, and it got to the point where they were cramping at the same time, and I was basically using my trekking poles as crutches. They were really bad. I didn't understand that was nutrition. I just thought I was pushing kind of too hard. My legs couldn't take it. But if your body is lacking in salt or electrolytes, you will cramp. And I learned this definitively when I ran my first full marathon and I cramped up at mile 23. But nonetheless, that's pretty much what happened to me on this trail. So much cramping. I was limping so bad, and the sun's going down. It's pretty much almost dark. I'm not at my campsite, and I can hardly walk at this point. Now, I talk in the video about how I was in a semi-survival situation for the first time in my life, and I didn't really explain why that was. I had some fear that day because I had forgotten to replace the batteries of my headlamp, and I knew that they were already dying from the previous trip. They were already blinking low battery. So I knew that I might only have like 10 minutes of actual light and headlamp power to see what I was doing. So the fact that I was just on this trail that was really overgrown, nowhere that I can set up that I can see at all, it's getting dark, I can hardly walk. Hardly walk, limping into the campsite. That last mile, oh man, must have took me an hour and a half, but it was crazy. So I get to the campsite. The site is not hammock friendly at all. There are no trees in the open sections of the campsite, and it pretty much drops off on one side, and it's very overgrown, or it was around the perimeter of the site. So I pretty much picked 2 really small trees. One was probably this big. Tiny. It might even have been smaller. It might have been like this big. It was ridiculous how small it was, but I had no choice, and I didn't care at all. I was setting that stuff up, and I was going to sleep now. And this is where it gets really rough, because I did start a fire that night. I did cook a steak that I brought, ate about half of it, just was not feeling it. Sometimes when I run a lot or if I do a lot of hiking, I'm not hungry afterward, which is kind of bad. Nonetheless, I ate my dinner as fast as I could. I got in my hammock, and I was just depleted of energy, just totally drained. Well, I'm laying in my hammock, and I feel something on my ankle. Rewind back to that dirt I found on my leg at mile 1, and they're bugs. That dirt, all those little speckles of black that were all over my ankles are bugs. And they've been on me all day so far, and they are currently stuck to my leg. I knew pretty much immediately that they were either little baby seed ticks or chiggers. In the video, I call them chiggers the whole time, but they in fact were not. They were seed ticks. They are baby ticks in the nymph stage of their life, to where I was probably their first host. I assumed that I walked through a tick nest or something. I walked through something because I was covered in these things, and they were stuck to my ankle. And I picked off 1 or 2, threw them out the zipper of my hammock, and it was ridiculous how hard they were to really get off. You really had to scratch at them to get them off, and I just wasn't feeling it. I was so tired and drained that I just said, screw it, I'm sleeping with them. They're ticks or whatever they are, they're stuck to my leg. They'll be there in the morning. I'll deal with them in the morning. That just comes with not having the proper nutrition and everything. I was super drained, probably super dehydrated. I had no energy to get out of my tent and take care of the problem like I should have. But I just thought, they're stuck to me, they'll be there in the morning. When I got home, I actually messaged Kyle Burley from Burley Outdoors, because I remember in one of his videos at Lake Vesuvius, he got them all over his legs. So I messaged him and asked him about him, and he said that he poured alcohol from his alcohol stove on him, and it took care of it. He had really no problems at all, which was a great idea. I hadn't thought of that at all when I was out experiencing this. But in hindsight, I should have got out of my hammock. I should have poured alcohol all over my leg and killed all them things right off the bat. I felt those little bugs crawling all over me all night, and I wasn't sure if it's just the bites that were itching or if they were actually moving, but they were crawling on me. Well, I finally get to sleep about 5 in the morning for probably an hour, and when I got up, they were still there. It was bad. I did a little bit of talking to the camera here, just talking about how I didn't want to film anymore the night before. It was the first video I was making that I just gave up. The night before, I thought, screw this. I'm not filming the rest of the trip anymore. It's going to be a bomb trip for a video. There's just not going to be a video for this one. I'm done. Well, the next morning, I felt better. My legs actually felt really good. Probably because I ate something and gave my body the nutrition it needed. But I also just knew that I was done. It was such a demoralizing evening, and especially with them bugs on me, I just wanted to get out of there and get them off of me as soon as possible. Passing by campsite 4 there, super buggy. That one's right down by the river. Really, really glad I had no plans of staying at that site during this trip. Okay, so now we are at the road walk, which is what will be my shortcut to cut the loop short, take me back to the car, get me out of there. Now, I barely get a half mile down on the road walk when I look down at my ankle. And where all those little bugs are on my ankle, I can now see my ankle is covered in bug bites. Let's see if you can see it in the video here. Okay, there we go. You can see some of the bug bites all over the place. All those little black dots are actually the ticks that are currently stuck on me. And they were everywhere. Little did I know how much damage had been done. So I got back to the car, I jump in the creek. Here I am talking about how bad of a trip it is, but I jump in the creek, pulled about 2 or 3 like adult-sized ticks off of my back, which is never fun. And I just noticed that those things were, more places than my ankles. They had migrated north, and they were pretty much all over me. On the drive home, I remember just looking down at one point, and one's just crawling up my forearm, and that's just enough to make you cringe. I mean, you do what you do, you flick it off or you toss her out the window, but you're just covered. But when I got home, I kid you not, and this is no exaggeration at all, I get in the shower and I'm scratching these things off, I'm picking them off, I'm burning them off, the hottest water I can stand, and my wife comes home. I tell her what's up. She starts helping me search my body for all these ticks that are all over me. No exaggeration, 3.5 hours straight of picking ticks off my body. And for the next days to come, every place that I got bit was like a very, very definite bug bite. Like if you've ever seen the show Naked and Afraid, where the people are just completely saturated in bug bites, that's what a lot of my body looked like, mostly my legs. Everything else was bit up, but it was sporadic. My ankles were completely ridiculous. I'm going to bring up a picture here. Look at that. That is insane. This was a couple days after it happened. I mean, the sensation of rubbing these things was insane. It was unbelievable. I did everything I could to try to alleviate some of the itching of these. But I went to work the next day after this, and it was really, really miserable. The thing that sucked was wearing shoes. I took my shoes off when I slept in the hammock, so they easily just bit all my feet. My feet were completely covered. Here's a shot in the video as well. Look at that. Look at those bug bites there. Tick bites. Who would think that ticks just bite and go? I always thought that they would just stick on me and that would be that. That there would be no, just bites all over my body. The adult ticks, if you find one on you, that's going to be the only bug bite you pretty much have. I don't know what it was with these little ones, but they were just crawling everywhere, biting everywhere. I went to work the one day. Next day, I called off. I actually took 2 vacation days because it was miserable to actually try to wear shoes and socks. It was completely insane. But I called Stat Care. I went and got some shots and antibiotics for Lyme disease and whatnot. Luckily, they probably didn't have any diseases because they were so young. I literally did every remedy you can think of, as like salt baths, oatmeal baths, every type of itch cream, calamine lotion, everything you can think of. I even poured bleach on them too to dry them out and stuff. But I did everything. Something I will never forget from this is laying in the bathtub with all this oatmeal stuff that I was taking a bath with, and taking that creamy oatmeal and just straight rubbing it down my leg like this. It was such a sensation. It was unbelievable. And I actually joke about it that I'm thankful that I went through this bad of a situation to make that feel so good. Because I mean, think about it. You get a mosquito bite, you itch it because it feels good when you itch it. I mean, it itches and it sucks, but when you're scratching it, oh man, does it feel good. Imagine being totally covered and just rubbing all this creamy oatmeal all over your legs and ankles. It was unbelievable. It was crazy. And I actually did really, really good with not scratching them open and picking at them too much. About a week later, I started giving in and scratching and stuff, but I knew it was bad. I knew that if I'd scratch it, it would only be like 10 times worse, but it was an experience. Had I took my time, gave my body the nutrients it needed, I wouldn't have been so depleted and so just completely out of energy to where I couldn't take care of that at night. I mean, granted, even if I would have tried to pick some of them off at night, it would have been bad either way. But had I, maybe stayed at campsite 6 rather than 5, stopped a little bit earlier, I would have had more time in the evening, actually had some sunlight to assess the situation and see that they're completely all over me. Nutrition would have really, really helped this. It was really dumb. So this trip was pretty much bad nutrition, bad hydration, super overgrown. Like the spiders were just demoralizing. The ticks that were all over me. It being, a super hot kind of day. It was ridiculous. I would still go backpacking if it was this hot. If I had a trip planned and I didn't want to back out, I'd still do it, but I would be a lot more mindful of my body. So that's my worst backpacking experience. It was a nightmare. I haven't been back to Shawnee State Forest since. Shawnee State Forest for me is always a sore topic. I do plan on going back in the future. I definitely have to finish this loop, even if I just trail run it and do it in a day or take a couple extra days or something. I have to finish this loop. I love hearing people's bad experiences. Everybody's got them. So if you got a good story, put it in the comments below. I would really like to hear some of your stories. Some of them are really amazing that make mine not even look bad at all. But seriously, put them down below. I really would love to read them. Well, that about does it for this video, guys. Thanks so much for watching. Hit that subscribe button if you liked it, if you want to see more stuff like this in the future. And yeah, good talk. We'll do it again soon. But until next time, we'll see you later.